If you want to get started in multifamily apartment or any real estate and you feel intimidated by the size or the number, just know that there's only one skill that you need to have in order to actually get whatever you want to achieve. And that's raising more money. You can get in whatever deal, you can have whatever partnership you want if you just learn this one skill.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owners Association, where real estate investors have found success since 1968. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group. This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 453. My guest today started with $2,000 in their bank account and have turned that into a $300 million multifamily apartment portfolio. Palmy and Nancy Kitti are here today to share their experiences along the way and to delve into the behind-the-scenes secrets of their wealth-building strategy. Palmy and Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves and how you both got started in real estate? And then I'm assuming you're both sisters or cousins? Or
We're sisters.
We're sisters.
Tell our listeners about yourselves.
So we're apartment syndicators, entrepreneurs, and educator with big dreams and $300 million multifamily apartment portfolio. We teach real estate entrepreneurs how to raise more monies to fund their real estate deal and help our passive investors grow their wealth, secure financial security, and creating a lasting legacy. Now, we didn't always have this business, the investors, the course, the book, the millions in real estate portfolio. In fact, in just a few years ago, we were involved deeply in fashion manufacturing industry, believing we were living our dream. Yet, we quickly realized that how replaceable we were when our main client suddenly just shut down their retail stores. And just like that, it plummeted our income from a lot, like millions, into nearly zero overnight. So suddenly we were left with nothing, right? We were left with like no dreams, no plan, no clue of what our next step. And that's when we enter multifamily apartments.
Are you saying you were in some sort of manufacturing? You had a product that you were making? What was the product?
Fashion. Woman fashion brand stuff.
What was the brand?
There were several, yeah.
We'd rather not mention.
So the stores that you were selling through stopped selling them? And
so basically, we were producing branded clothing. So the brand owns 300-400 stores across the country, and internationally they had licensing deals as well. And in the process of producing these clothing for them and all other accessories as well, we were getting really rave reviews from their buying side, production side, due to our quality time and also just the sell-through rate for those products. In fact, a week before the shutdown happened, we were getting emails from the buyer team saying, hey, we love your product. It's selling so well that we're going to double the volume going forward. That was we were like, I think we were elated. We were high-fiving each other. I completely remember exactly where we were. And then only a week later, we heard the news that, hey, they're shutting down all their stores. So you can imagine like being the highs of highs, feeling like, hey, we went from $2,000 and we built up a multi-million-dollar business in fashion. And all of a sudden it just went like, and it was like through no fault of our own. I think that experience happens to a lot of people. You can be an employee, you can be a business owner.
You can be the best at it.
You can be the best at whatever you're doing, but there's elements outside of what you have control over that can completely derail your finances.
If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like your product was selling through the roof, but then the stores that were selling your product, they all shut down.
Yeah, they had a mismanagement. So basically, long story short, they had some weird agreement with some sort of, they took on some money, and with part of that agreement is if they had below a certain threshold of stores, their IP, their intellectual property, transfers to that private equity firm. It was a weird arrangement. Obviously, we have no control over it, and we didn't know this was happening. So once they started shutting down some of their stores, it triggered this, and a cascading of stuff started happening on their side.
Things outside of your control. Was your product part of their IP? I mean, what kept you from taking your product and just bringing it to a different retailer?
So we were producing for them. We were their manufacturer. So it was their design. Mm-hmm. It wasn't our design. We were just like giving a design and then we just produce according to them. So it wasn't like a store that buy our product. It's a store that order their product through us.
Yeah, and because it's branded, we had about $1 million at open PO at that time. But because it's already branded, we can take it back because we own the thing. But we have to literally remove that branding from the apparel, which would have been, some of the item would have been destroyed because it's like part of it. So it wasn't an easy process at all.
So did you have excess inventory then that you were out of pocket for?
So that was the dilemma that we were faced at the time. So almost $1 million plus of open PO. What do? Do we just continue? We already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on producing it. Or do we take a chance and instead of boating it, instead of shipping it by sea freight, we actually shipped it by air freight to make it by a certain cutoff date and hope and pray that they pay us for it. So what they told us is, if you send it by a certain date, we're not going to guarantee we'll pay you, but there's a chance you will get paid. But we will not take any other merchandise unless
that's $1 million risk right there.
Yeah.
And trust us, Brian, I mean, this crisis was the best thing that ever actually happened to us. It was our fresh start, our chance of doing things differently.
Why is that? Like, why is it the best? Because it sounds like a nightmare. So how did, first of all, tell us how you resolved that nightmare. Did you ship it in time and did you get your $1 million? Start with that.
Yeah, so we actually did ship it. We decided to ship it. We paid our vendors on time, even though we didn't get paid. So our arrangement with our vendors is we pay upon exit of the factory. So they all got paid. We paid for air freight, which was very expensive. We had trucks waiting at the docks, like waiting at the airport, waiting to clear immediately. It's in San Francisco. We ship it to LA. Customs in LA is much bigger. But anyway, the long story is we shipped it. We waited about a year and a half, checking every single day as their business started collapsing. So we waited till we kept checking like, hey, are you going to pay us? Are you going to pay us and pay us? Eventually they started paying. So thank goodness we shipped it. And
I think the reason why we went forward is because we realized that if we do nothing, we get nothing. Mm-hmm. At least when we take this chance, and they're a great client of ours. We've been working with them for many years and they never, caused us any issues. So we just took our faith and then for us, it's the best thing that ever happened to us because it make us realize that we need to be in a business where we can't be outsourced or we have more control of our future and our finance, like Palm said.
Sounds like it has a silver lining, which led you to real estate, I'm sure. But tell us, like, you went from one completely different field, manufacturing, clothing, branding, all that. What then made you say, okay, we got to stop this. Let's get into real estate. How did you make that decision?
So they were like, the client that shut down all their store was our biggest client. So it was like the goose that laid the golden egg. But we were so dependent on them because our income were tied to people that we had a business that we didn't control. And what we realized was like something had to change. We don't want to continue to go find another brand to do this with and have this happen again and again. So we decided, okay, what are the pitfalls of this business and how do we find a different business that does not have those things? So in real estate, what we discovered was...
So believe it or not, when we were watching a presidential debate around that time, we got kind of like introduced to the idea of, this is how wealthy people play the game. Like wealthy people, they invest in real estate so that they pay, legally less taxes. And we're like intrigued by that, right?
The other thing is again, going back to why we chose real estate is because we didn't want to be outsourced. We didn't want to have our price cut just because they decided that they wanted higher margins. And so all the characteristics that were wrong with that business, we've tried to find a business that's more suitable and where the income is directly tied to what we decide is worth versus someone else dictating how much they should pay us for a piece of t-shirt. So that's how we pinpointed and selected real estate as the new chapter for us.
Yes, and then when we first got started, we kind of dabble into single family flipping because we didn't know that apartment investing, especially anything that like bigger than 65 unit and above, are accessible to people like us, like ordinary people who didn't come from money, who didn't have rich uncle or even like wealthy connection. We didn't know that it was available, so we dabble into single family flipping, and then that's how we got introduced to multifamily apartments.
You may be ordinary people who did not come from money, but you were coming from a place of success where you had built a very successful clothing business. Granted that you had no control over the retail that shut down on you, But you did come from a place of success. So how did that inform you as you move forward with real estate? And it sounds like you started with fix and flipping. I mean, you weren't, even though maybe you were new to real estate, you weren't new to business and entrepreneurship.
The thing that we always tell even investors when we were new into multifamily and we were raising money was that we're new to multifamily. Our team isn't, but we are new, but we have a business background. And our business actually is much more complicated to manage. It's multinational coordination to get things done. Literally, things would come from different parts of the country to be components.
From different part of the world.
Yeah, different countries. Yeah. And then you have to put it together. So that was a difficult business. Multifamily is a simple business. You raise rents, you reduce expenses, you fix things that are broken, you have a timeline for when you need to sell, and you exit. So that was the story that we shared with all our investors, and they believed us. The other thing that I think was helpful was that because we started from zero, we started from just $2,000, it gave us this confidence knowing that like if we put a lot of energy and focus on any new industry, we can make it. Because we started from that point. And so like, it's that reinforcement, like what Tony Robbins has is like, because you had the result before, you know that if you do certain actions, you're going to get that same result. So it's a self-perpetuating loop that just gave us that confidence knowing that we can figure this out.
Talk about your first deal then. I mean, was it a fix and flip? What kind of property was it? Where was it? What were some of the dollar amounts that you dealt with there?
So we live in Los Angeles, so our property prices are a little bit high. So this was a couple years ago. We after trying to win a deal for a long time, and people who are listening can appreciate, like you get frustrated after a while. Suddenly we found this property that we submitted an offer, but guess what? The broker actually started calling us back, and we didn't want to answer the phone. I don't know if first-time flippers or any buyers can relate to this. I told Nan, I think she's trying to call us because I think she wants to give us the deal.
And we were like, wait, did we
do something wrong?
Yeah, did we offer high price? Why are we getting this? Why are we getting awarded in this deal?
And we were literally the whole day, I didn't answer her phone call.
I think what we learned from flipping business is that it was really hard to raise money to fund our flipping business. Versus multifamily is much easier.
Yeah.
I think people believe in commercial real estate. They want a piece of commercial real estate versus like flipping business. For some reason, it was much more difficult for us to raise capital for it.
But with that deal, we I personally underestimated the rehab costs. And so the only thing that saved us was we had really good design sense. So the product looked amazing. And the home market price, the single home prices in Los Angeles was really appreciating dramatically. So I think the market saved us. So the first deal, we walked away, we made some money, but we also were left just thinking like, man, this could have gone really bad. If things were slightly different. So yeah.
I think like the difference between single family and multifamily is really evident because in single family, we have to do everything ourselves. We have to source the deal. We have to source the materials.
Work with the contractor, with the city, like find a staging company, work with the
broker to sell.
Yeah, broker to sell. Like we had to do everything. But in multifamily, it's like, there's so many buckets, and it's truly a team sport where, hey, you just play this role and then you have another team member who support you and you also support them. So it's a night and day experience for us.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people get into flipping because they think, oh, it's something I can handle by myself and, maybe hire some contractors to come in. But you're making it, or the way you're putting it, multifamily, even though you're dealing with more units, it's actually much more manageable.
Totally, right? Completely. So the difference is really scalability and team. So, and then this goes back to our fashion day. When we were doing fashion, we were a very lean team, but we had all these resources from the vendor side to the factory side that was supporting us. And that's exactly the same thing that we experienced with multifamily. Not only do we have superior like legal team helping us structure the deal, have the property management team who can make sure that our business plan gets executed. But we also have partners who are general partners with us who go in together managing these properties. When Nan told you about our first deal, the $6.9 million property, we didn't have any experience. If we were the most experienced people, we would have really screwed up that deal. But thank goodness we had people who said, hey, do this. No, this is what we should increase rents to. No, this is the proper expectation for the property management team, do's and don'ts. And so It feels like its analogy would be like if you go skydiving and you do a tandem skydive. Yes, it's kind of scary, but it's a life or death kind of moment. If you jump by yourself for the first time, probably not a great result. But because you go with someone who have done this 1,000 times, you know that even its adrenaline is flowing, but you know that you're going to come out.
And safe. I think it's so important in any venture you're on. You want to partner with people who are experienced problem solvers, right? Because in any business, you're going to run into problem, and you don't want to be the most experienced in the team. Well, now we are, because we've been doing it for 5.5 years now. We are the one who are in charge. But when you first get started, I highly recommend someone,
go join a team that's more experienced.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. So when you talk about having experienced people on your team in multifamily, break that down for us. What are the different teams, the different players that you want to have surrounding you, and the experience you want to see on that team?
The important thing for newbies to understand is the skill set redundancy is not good for multifamily. So you want to have, we think that multifamily on the active side, like the general partners who are operating the deal,
we
have 5 main buckets. You don't have to have 5 people, but the function needs to be there. First one is sourcing the deal. Second is having relationships with the broker. Third is underwriting the deal, being the math person. The next person is like asset management and like the raising capital, and also the liability balance sheet person. So sourcing is basically the
sourcing and a broker is the same.
Yeah.
So let's take those 5 and kind of break them down for us, and tell us where you stand on each of those 5 items, and how you might fill your team with people who can do them better than you.
When we first got started, first thing we learned was that multifamily or real estate in general, like income producing real estate, doesn't work in Los Angeles or doesn't work in California because it's not landlord friendly. So the first thing we recognized was we had to go outside. We had to go to cities like Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, anywhere in the Sun Belt, which was a problem because we lived in LA. So we couldn't be the boots on the ground. We couldn't be the asset manager because we don't know the business. We don't know the local assumptions to even analyze the deal. We didn't have the relationships with the broker. Our balance sheet was so, but it wasn't strong yet. So as we kept talking to people, what we recognized was there's always a need for capital. And so we decided, we sold ourselves to them by saying we can raise money because we live in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Do we know how? No.
So when we, to summarize, like when we enter multifamily apartments, we quickly recognize that behind every successful apartment syndication is just one skill, right? The ability to raise money and attract endless investor. Without the skill, your business will fall behind your competitors, struggle to achieve sustainable growth, or you have no deal, because without without money, there's no deal.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that the strong suit that you both bring to the table is the ability to raise money.
That's at the beginning. That was the beginning.
But yet at the beginning, you said you could raise money because you live in LA.
We were selling ourselves to the people that we can do it.
99% of the people that we know got invited to be on board on a deal with experienced people because they bring what's valuable to the team, and that is money. So for us, even though at the beginning we wanted to do something that we could control, that is like learning how to underwrite, but we didn't have like, that art yet.
And we also didn't have the sub-market knowledge because we didn't live there
at that time.
So the easiest one for us was, hey, if we can convince people that we can raise money, though at that time we didn't know how, we felt like, again, going back to our like figure outable kind of mindset, we thought we can figure this out.
But here's the thing. That's the biggest mistake.
It was really difficult.
Because we didn't realize that it's truly a skill. It's not something where you say, hey, I know wealthy people. You can go up to them and, hey, do you want to give me $200K, $300K in this deal? No, absolutely not. Like, just because you have wealthy connection, or just because you think that you watch something on YouTube and you can duct tape the strategy together, that's not going to happen, right? So for us, even though we were really bold to go up to people and say we could do it, it was actually the biggest mistake because we didn't actually sharpen our skill set. But now if you come up and ask us, like, we can easily raise a lot of money because we've been through a lot.
We did everything wrong.
I mean, in the last
5.5
years, as a matter of fact, we have raised over $130 million.
So what mistakes did you make in the beginning when it came to raising money? How did you get started?
The first one was not always raising money before you have the deal. We had an investor list, but we didn't cultivate it. We didn't try to grow it. I think like anyone coming into apartment, if you think, or any real estate, if you think that go find the deal, then you can start thinking about raising money or building the connection with investors, that's really a really big mistake.
I think exactly what Palm said. Thinking that you know the people doesn't mean that the equivalent to you can raise money, right? That's the biggest mistake. And I see a lot of our colleagues and people who are in this industry say, oh, I know rich friends. Like, I have my rich cousin. I know, like, my mom will invest. Honestly, they're the hardest people to raise money from because they don't see you as an authority yet. They just see you as, hey, you're a dentist. You're great at, like fixing teeth, keeping my teeth nice. But they don't see you as a financial expert yet. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we know and we have seen.
So how do you make that transition from being just a person who has a deal to actually being seen as an expert who others want to invest money with?
I think it's important to understand your investor and the type of people, like how it's not just about like pitching a deal, it's about understanding them and helping them solve the problem. Not every problem can be solved through multifamily apartments. So you have to find your people, the type of people who needs your help.
What Nan is trying to say here is that like if you help solve someone's problem, they don't care how new you are. But if you're trying, it's like this whole idea of like going towards pain or going away from pain or towards pleasure. If you're in a fire, they don't care if I know how to rescue people from a fire. They're like, thankful that I just pulled them out, right? But like, so recognize like if you can articulate why multifamily is the right path for them to help them actually become financially free, they're going to be more eager to hear from you. And that's how we got started.
Talk about the first multifamily deal then. Like, where were you able to raise the money you said you could, and how did that deal go for you guys?
That deal, within 27 months, we exit and we were able to give more than 3x, like 300% back to our investors. So how that deal was a $6.9 million. It was in Phoenix, Arizona. And then
so the raise was interesting.
Yeah.
So basically at the beginning, we already had a small investor list, which we found through connecting at meetup events. So it was like a plus or minus because there's some people at the events who are more like getting started. So they're not probably the right person to start investing. And there's a couple people here and there that made sense. So it took one-on-one multiple interactions with the people that we already had on our list to actually start getting that done. The thing is that we were lucky because it was a 1031 exchange for the seller. So by that, they needed to get, like, I think they asked for a couple extensions because he couldn't identify the next property he was purchasing. So by default, we were given more time than we would have been allotted originally. Typically, multifamily deals, we close within 60 days. That's the escrow period. That wasn't enough.
Oh my God, you said it correctly. I totally remember. And it was like the old way of raising money. We just did traditionally, like how we think other people are raising money by taking them to lunch, by having one-on-one Zoom call, endless Zoom call, and just try to connect with anybody who wants to talk to us at that point. Like, we didn't understand the way that to do it is to actually set up system where they come to us, where, hey, those people who are qualified, those people who want to invest are the people who come to us. So now our life is so much different.
Explain the difference there. So you were much more hands-on approach of doing lunches, Zooms, but that now you're doing more of a bring them to you. What does that look like? How do you actually manage that in real life?
But the traditional way, it's more of like, it's a feast or famine kind of scenario, because some deals you may attract the same list that you already have. Maybe they have money, right? Maybe they have a deal that have sold, so they have extra income,
or they tap.
Or the other scenario is they're tapped. And so if you don't keep replenishing your investor list, that becomes a problem. And then if you're doing one-on-one interaction, imagine how long it would take to start growing your list. So that was the original way. The way that we do it today is we consider it one-to-many, and we use a lot of different systems to draw people into us. Part of that is what Nan said, is like we really try to clearly understand our investors' pain points and show them that we're the best people to help solve for it. And this is through a whole bunch of different process that we do. And it involves like a lot of inbound investor flow. So every day there's investors reaching out, wanting to invest. Also, this also has to do with referrals, because we have a success record that is pretty amazing. And so a lot of friends and family of the people who have invested also send relatives, cousins, brothers, sisters, friends who saw, hey, you just sold your property and you got a 300% return. Like, what is that? Can you show me? What are you talking about?
Yeah, out of our, in 5 years, we sold 3 deals and we gave them phenomenal return. Our average hold period was 27 months. So with that kind of track record, we were really blessed that our investor trusts us and start introducing them to us, to their friends, their mom, their cousin, and everyone like that.
A lot has changed in the 5.5 years since you started investing in multifamily, especially with financing and the types of deals that lenders will lend on. Of course, interest rates have become a big issue. What are some of the changes that you've brought into your business because of that? Are you still doing deals and still finding deals out there?
The first thing is at the beginning, when we first started, everyone was buying C-class apartments, which are built in the 70s and in workforce housing area. Think of people who work in retail stores, supermarkets, etc. That was great because at that time, it was a bang for your buck. You were buying it at a very low cost, and then you were able to force appreciate the value and sell it for a higher price. But as the market became basically it became hotter and hotter, that the range of price between A, B, and C class, it started getting more compressed. So by 2022, you pretty much can buy an A class apartment for almost the price that you would have paid for a C. So it was almost the same. It didn't make any sense to go for an inferior product at that point. We personally also saw a shift where we felt like our C-class apartments were harder to manage. There were a lot more deferred maintenance. We were dealing a lot with issues of trespassing, security issues, evictions on C-class. And so we made a deliberate change during the time of COVID. We're going to focus on A-class apartments. We're going to get the clienteles who can afford our rent increases. And that came at the right moment, at the right time, because as interest rates were going up, the affordability was becoming an issue in the C-class apartments. Rent increases, you can't go above what they can afford to pay. But when we had our apartments that are A-class apartments, that their income to rent ratio is 6x plus. That means that for their income, their rent is at least 6x below what they earn. That was a great cushion, because even our properties today can do a 6% year-over-year increase without batting an eye.
Yes,
We've had one eviction, and it wasn't even during our hold, on the entire life of that property.
Yes, and that was a $77 million purchase price that we bought last year, where we raised $34 million. And we always teach our students, I know a lot of people are teaching you to buy C-class, but for us, we advocate buying A-class. And why? Because we've been through a lot. We bought during COVID, before COVID, and even bought during high interest rate hikes. So we know, we want easy life. We are in this business for lifestyle. We don't want to go to the property and just camp there for months, right? So for us, we always teach our students that, hey, this is a lifestyle business, and we, like us, we always buy A or newer than A, which is now we're doing build to rent, which is development projects.
Yeah, and when we go back to the partnership thing, when you buy A-class apartments, you can afford to hire the best of the best. Our property management team on our A-plus class apartment, imagine it's almost like a 5-star resort. They don't deal as much with, hey, leasing or acquiring new customers and tenants, because that just comes in automatically. What they deal with is more what they call the activation. We have massive pool parties. They're preparing for some sort of amphitheater event. They just updated us a couple of days ago. So when you buy better assets, you can afford to pay more for people, and you get a higher caliber team to work for you.
And I think a lot of people are feeling intimidated when we say like big numbers, like 50 million, 70 millions. And honestly, if you think of it as just numbers, it's just like, it's nothing more than like
just zero,
right? So for us, like we don't have $77 million in our bank account, and we were able to acquire it through using other people's money. Mm-hmm.
Tell our listeners how they can find out more about you, get a hold of you. And I heard you mention your students, so feel free to plug your coaching program too.
Well, guys, if you're a real estate entrepreneur and capital raiser, and no matter what asset class you're in, whether you are in single family, multifamily, whatever you acquire, you need to learn about this one skill, and that is capital raising. It will transform your life in more ways than you could have imagined, right? In real estate investing, capital raising is the super secret sauce to scale your business exponentially. So all you have to do is go to jumpstartapartments.com to learn more about capital raising, and that is jumpstartapartments.com.
And you can follow us on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, at the Kitti Sisters. So that's the Kitti Sisters on YouTube, on Instagram, we're everywhere. So you can get a lot of free information there as well.
Yes, we love to share our journey and, everything that we know about multifamily to people like us.
Yep.
What is your favorite hack or app?
I love Monday.com. We use that because our team's remote. And so we love to use a management tool where we can reduce the amount of emails. So everything is organized and we don't have to ask each other, hey, where are you at? All you have to do is just go check that app out.
Yep.
Same for you, Nancy?
Yes.
I want to thank you both for being on the show today. I really enjoyed listening to your story about overcoming the setback that you had in your manufacturing and apparel business, but being able to parlay that into success in multifamily apartment investing, especially on the fundraising side. And thanks for sharing your experiences there. It's been a real pleasure having both of you on the show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's HIGinvestor.com.